It occurred one Sunday in which I was accompanying my sister to a congregation about 90 miles away from ours. She had been invited to a get-together of Jehovah's Witnesses. And the idea was that we were going to go to this Kingdom Hall, their Sunday meeting, and then afterwards go to these people's house for refreshments and board games. I'm not into it, but she insisted I come with. Well, anyway, it's Sunday morning and we drive to this hall about an hour away. First time here, first time we've ever been to the hall. We enter into the foyer area and they have a little coat room where we go and hang up our coats. I set my book bag down, I hang up my jacket, and I turn around and there's this little guy standing there. He just appeared behind me. And he's looking at me like this. I'm surprised to see him there. I'm like, oh, hi, how you doing? He doesn't say anything. He just stares at me. He's a little guy, about 5'2". He has white hair. I guess he's about 55, 60 years old. Short white hair, but then he has a curly Q in the front. This big curly Q in the front of his hair. And he's wearing this little suit with a bow tie. He extends his hand like this. Like he's the Queen of England. And I'm like, oh. And I start shaking his hand. And he says, Larry Bird. And I say, I'm shaking his hand and I say, your name is Larry Bird? And then he walks away. When he walks away, by the way, he walks like this. Like he has a fishing line on his belt buckle or penis. He's being reeled in and he's trying to stop it. He just walks like this. And the people that invited us to the hall, they walk up and start talking to us and I say, who's that little guy? And the guy says, oh, that's Brother Bird. He's a ministerial servant in our hall. And I said, oh, well, he was staring at me and he didn't say anything. I said hi to him and the guy said, oh, maybe he didn't hear you. He's bell tone. They begin the Sunday meeting and it's your usual very dry Sunday meetings. It's a very stale thing you go through where everyone just kind of sits there. They had the guy give the talk, very boring, but there was some lively entertainment on the way. This would be one for the history books. Brother Larry Bird was called to the stage for the Watchtower study. Apparently he was going to be reading the Watchtower. He was going to be sitting to the side and read the paragraphs for the discussion. And I couldn't help notice that when he ascended the steps of the stage, he turned to the microphone very flamboyantly and stood there like this, holding his Watchtower. I'm getting creeped out. I can't tell if he's staring at me. He seems to be looking directly at me. I can't tell if he's staring vacantly or he's fixating on me. But I'm like, oh God. And I'm just trying to like pay attention to my Watchtower here, but the Watchtower had something to do with draw close to Jehovah, and he draws close to you. And Larry begins reading paragraph 1. Jehovah's Spirit. What is it? Can we see it? Can we smell it? I'm really getting creeped out. I don't want to be there. I didn't want to be there in the first place. We're here. I'm really uncomfortable with this whole thing, but as the paragraphs went on, we come to paragraph 7 or 8, and it's talking about Potiphar's wife, or as Larry says, Potiphar's wife and Joseph trying to seduce him. And on the A question, Brother Bird raises his hand. But he doesn't just raise his hand like a normal person. He cups his hand like he's holding a gift to Jehovah or something. He does it like this. Well, the brother on stage calls on him, and Brother Bird proceeds to give the most mind-blowing... And I've been to a lot of Watchtower studies, folks. I have never heard a comment like this. This was universal, mind-blowing. Well, Brother Bird is going to, typically at the Watchtower study, the idea is that you're going to give a 30-second or less comment, basically repeating what's in the mag. You're supposed to put it in your own words so that it sounds good, but what they want you to do is read what was in the paragraph there. Well, he decides instead to give a experience, which is not unheard of, but this comment went on for 7 or 8 minutes. Brother Bird recounted a field service experience. Well, he's out in service and he's at this door. Rings the doorbell, and a very beautiful woman answers the door. And she's wearing a bathrobe. And it looks like she's just woken up, but Brother Bird gives his presentation, and the woman says, "Have you been here before? I've seen these magazines. My husband and I are very interested in them." And Larry Bird says, "Well, if you're interested, I could give you a demonstration of a free home Bible study." She said, "We'd like that. Come on in." And he goes into the people's living room there, and she says, "Have a seat. I'll be right back." And he sits down in this chair. The woman goes around the corner, and she reappears about a minute later. She comes around the corner, and she's fully naked. She's completely naked. By the way, I'm sitting in the audience listening to all of this. Well, the naked woman is standing there, staring at Larry. He looks up and says, "Ah, Mrs. Langford, your husband can walk in at any moment." And she walks closer to him and says, "Larry, Larry, Larry, I don't have a husband." And she leans forward and rests her hands on the chair. Just there. Well, Larry said that he closed his eyes and said a 3-second prayer to Jehovah. You see, because he remembered how when Samson was in trouble, he prayed to Jehovah, and Jehovah gave him supernatural ability to escape from the situation. You see, Larry couldn't stand up without brushing against this naked woman. And so he prayed to Jehovah with his eyes closed. And when he reopened his eyes, the naked woman was leaning in, about to give him a kiss. And Larry lifted his Bible, and she face plants, kisses the Bible. Jehovah gave Larry the supernatural strength for just a burst of supernatural energy, and he leaps backwards over the back of the chair without 1 centimeter of his body brushing up against the naked woman. He completely clears the naked woman, leaps backwards over the chair, lands on his feet, grabs his book bag, and escapes the situation. The speaker on stage looks over at Larry Bird and says, "Truly, Jehovah had an overview of that situation, made a way out for you. Thank you, Brother Bird. Your experiences always enrich our study." And Larry Bird said, And they go on to the next paragraph. I'm like, okay. Apparently that just happened. Well, a few paragraphs later, Brother Bird we hadn't heard the last of him. He raises his hand again, once again cupping his God like he's serving fruit to the gods of Mount Olympus. He raises up, and again he gets called on. Well, he's going to give another experience part. Another field service experience in which Larry was arrested out in service. Well, you hear about this in Watchtower magazine. They're always talking about how going out in service can get you arrested, but you never actually hear about it happening. Well, according to Larry, he did get arrested for going out in service. He said that he was going door to door, and the village constable came up and put him in handcuffs and put him in the car and drove him to jail. He didn't mention what town this happened in or any of the when, where details. I'd be curious to know, though. I'd like to know what town you got arrested in for going out in service. Well, he left that part out. But apparently he got arrested for field service, and they took him to the town jail and threw him in a cell. And he spent the night in jail. Well, they throw him in this cell, and out from the shadows comes a big biker guy. Big, huge guy wearing a motorcycle jacket. And he walks up and says, "Get Buck." And Larry says, "Excuse me?" I said, "Get buck naked." "Why?" "'Cause I'm gonna rape you." Well, Larry thinks quick. He immediately gets his book bag out and begins reasoning from the scriptures with this man. Which, it's surprising to me that they let him retain his kingdom materials there, since they had arrested him for going out in service. But they put his book bag in the cell. Anyway, I'm looking over at my sister, who's sitting 2 seats away, and she looks at me like this. We're looking at each other. I'm looking around the Kingdom Hall again, and everyone's sitting there nodding. There's all these families sitting there, and he's talking about how he's about to get raped in jail, and all these families are sitting there, and it's surreal to me. Well, anyway, Larry says another one of his 3-second prayers to Jehovah, and he pulls out his kingdom literature and begins studying with this motorcycle man. Because that happens. Yep, they spent the entire night studying. They had an 8-hour study that night. Well, that morning the jailer reappears and said, "Sorry for the mix-up, Larry, you're free to go," and unlocks the cell door. Well, Larry stands up and the motorcycle guy shakes his hand. Says, "I want you to know, if you had been anyone but a Jehovah's Witness, I would have raped you." I look over at my sister again, and she looks at me like this. I'm looking around the hall. People are nodding, smiling. I look over at my sister. She's writing a note to me, and she folds it up. She scoots it across the seat. I open the note. They continue reading the paragraphs. I open this note from my sister and I look at it. It says, "As soon as this meeting is over, could you find out if Brother Bird is single?"